And we're back with a question and answer session with Digital Master and the Space Coder. If you missed the section we talked about, our discussion portion where we talked about the new player experience, the goods, the bads, the things, the problem signs coming forward with 319's new player experience and how CIG can improve it, make sure there'll be a link right above Digital Master's head. Just click that link and you'll be able to go watch that first, watch that, then come here. The reason why I say that is because if you're watching this first, we may say we've already answered that in the previous thing, just because if we rehashed everything we said in the first one, we'd be here for hours. So make sure you check that out first. And of course, follow the Digital Master on YouTube and Space Coder on YouTube as well on their social medias. Both of those links will be in below on YouTube. And with that, let's go to the first question. The first question is from Gin and Tonic, who asks, if CIG is to build a new new player experience, do you think it's good to use good use of resources, as it's going to need a whole dedicated team to keep up to date, and it's most likely going to be a quarter late consistently? I'll start with you on this, Space Coder. What do you think?
Depends. If they were to dedicate, a whole team of probably 10 people to do it right now, that would be a waste of resources. Things are changing too fast, and the game, there's what we are seeing is, the latest stable version of the game, but they have multiple layers of things that we don't see, and these guys would just be forever playing catch up to the new tech. And then there will be this cycle of having to chase the developers making the new features to provide the guide to the internal team, and then the internal team trying to process it to a tutorial. So I think that's a bit of a waste of time. I think they just need to kind of improve the inline user experience. Literally just take 2 guys and add signs to every landing zone. It's going to be maybe 2 weeks of developer effort, and I think it's going to help everybody. And just leave it like that probably until beta. And I think that would be it. Anything more than that is probably too much, depending on how much resources CIG have. That's it.
Digi, what do you think?
I think they should continue to lean on the content creators, not just saying so that I can keep making videos. But I think they should lean on that a bit more, because I totally agree. Like if any of that would take away resources from, any of the key things that are being built, which is what I would suspect too, then I just say, let's just keep going, because the 2 things I look at is how well Star Citizen is doing. Like every year, it seems like there's more players coming to the game. So yes, we do absolutely need a new player experience, but we have great content creators. I'm talking about everybody else except myself, of course. Great content creators who can actually lift that load, I think, right now. And that way, get all those things built out, get things, where they need to be, where like beta phase, where you can really start to focus more on those types of things. And I think that would be the best way to go about that. But as far as pulling too many resources for this right now, I think it's a bit too early for that, personally.
Okay.
And I mean, we want CIG to do well, but if CIG do the development well, then I lose half my content. So,
personally, I think there are ways you can do the new player experience, which won't be as difficult to catch up with. But I think trying to put it all in the PU right now is a mistake, just because of how quickly things change. I like the idea that the Space Coder talked about when you were talking about earlier about utilize AC. I mean, it's perfect. Arena Commander is the perfect option for that. It's a place where you can fail, because it's a great place, where you can fail without huge consequences, and it's something that's easier to turn around. You can pivot with it a lot easier. And if it breaks, it breaks. It doesn't break the whole game. It just breaks the AC module. So, but yeah. All right. Next question comes from Blazrad, who asks, do you think the new player experiences are best placed in the PU, or do you think a tutorial mode in Arena Commander would be a better option? Digi, what do you think?
Totally agree. Like we were talking about, I totally agree with that, because it's isolated, it's siloed away from the main branch, if you will. So it's Commander? Yeah, exactly. So it's like you can. I think it's a great test bed to troubleshoot features as well. But like I said, yeah, totally separate it out. Arena Commander, some sort of module, like you said, Paul. And I think that would be the best way to go instead of the PU, personally.
Space Coder, what do you think?
I agree. Splitting it out into Arena Commander, it gives CAG more flexibility, and it also provides a safe environment. Also, one thing that kind of struck me in the Arena Commander ISC is that eventually they might be able to do separate releases for Arena Commander modules. So, if something breaks or they need to add something into Arena Commander, they might be able to do it outside of an actual game release, which gives them even more flexibility to get these things done. So I think that just creates a very good environment to create this sort of learning content, let's say.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Question from YouTube. And I'll start with you on this one, the Space Coder. What time frame is the points everyone's making about with a new player experience? The next year or two, or closer to beta? When you're talking about this, the stuff you'd like to see for a new player experience, are we talking about a year from now, 2 years, beta? Space Coder.
It's very difficult to say because 2 years ago they told us we would have Pyro right now in our hands, and we are nowhere near that. Paraphrased, we're nowhere near that because there is some things on the background going on. We have another question in there about this, so I will not answer it now. But so I think definitely not this year, definitely not next year, definitely not next 2 years because we're not going to be anywhere near it. Probably closer to beta when things are more stable gameplay wise, when we don't have a major shift in how it works every quarter. Probably when we're mostly adding content, that's the place where we need to be doing new player experience and all these tutorials, and then tutorial content type thing.
Okay, Digi, your thoughts? What time frame are you looking at for some of these things you might want to see in a new player experience?
I would say beta for me, only because I think it goes back to what we were talking about before, as far as like the resources that are needed, depending on what they're actually trying to do. But if we're talking about some of the things we are hoping for, I think it's going to require a good number of resources to build that out. And so right now, I think is just the wrong time. I wouldn't expect it. I hope it doesn't get prioritized personally, but beta for me, I think that's best also because to me, it makes the most sense. It's like you have a lot of your systems built, you got server meshing in, you got all these technological foundational things already in. So now your feature teams are actually building on top of that and things are much more concrete. So that's when you start to build that experience because that means you have less things to worry about as far as going back and repaving, like I was talking about before, repaving this feature because you just changed it again. So I think beta is, like, to me, the optimal time.
I'm with you on that. I think I still think that you could do it earlier if you did it in Arena Commander, because again, it's one of those, if it breaks, you just turn it off.
Yeah.
But beta is the best one because you're just not, that way you're not having to constantly chase the tail, and eventually it's just a waste of resources at a certain point.
I think we might see it once, because right now my understanding is that the Arena Commander team, they're just kind of catching up to the technology and developing new tools for themselves. And once they're done, at some point in the next 2 years, I think, they will be able to bring in new Arena Commander content very quickly and keep it up to date. Because my understanding was that they have a couple developers, some designers. I think they even might have some narrative people happening in that sort of task force going on. So I think it's possible we might see it. Probably not to too big of an extent. I think they're mostly going to focus on, bringing in the combat arenas, having some racing. Maybe they're gonna do something about the free fly modes, having private lobbies, that kind of stuff. Remains to be seen.
Yeah. All right. Next question comes from Jordan Sparks from YouTube, who asks, do you think that they're looking at new player experience now because they're eyeing Squadron 42's release date? Digi, what do you think?
I think it's a different game, and I don't think you train people to play Squadron 42 through Star Citizen, personally, because that's a different game. It's a single player game. The tutorial for Star Citizen is a multiplayer game. So that's my opinion on that one. That's an interesting question, though. Yeah, Yeah, I think those are. You think you treat those separately as
Okay.
far as tutorials go. Yeah.
Space Coder?
Well, long time ago, I think it was like 3-4 years ago, 5 even maybe. CIG released an hour-long vertical slice of Squadron 42.
Mhm.
And if you watch it, it actually has an in-game tutorial on how to control the game. So I think it's completely split. Squadron 42 will probably have its own thing because it's going to have some things that are specific to Squadron 42. I think we'll see to what extent, because and Paul, correct me if I'm wrong, the story of Squadron 42 happens many years before the current time in the PU. So things
2944, I think, is when it starts, and we're correct, 2953. So yeah, and every year we go, well, we're distancing ourselves even further from the actual
right.
dates.
So things are going to look different. Things are going to work different, very likely, and you might see things that don't exist in the PU. So I think they're going to have their own tutorial, because they're still 2 separate games. So there might be people out there who only have Squadron 42.
Mm.
So they haven't played the PU this whole time. It's probably not going to be a lot of people, but they haven't played the PU. They haven't played Star Citizen. They only have Squadron 42. So you have to bring those people into the mechanics of Star Citizen.
Mm. I would say in an ideal world, you get a lot of people with Squadron 42 because it's a single player game, and then be like, hey, there's this multiplayer game right here you can play. It's just like Squadron 42, but multiplayer. Enjoy it. Go over here.
Hey, you finished Squadron 42. Hey, if you go into the multiplayer version, you can continue the story of your character, and you're gonna get a shiny thing.
Yes, exactly. A little taste, all right, next question comes from Elwalk, who asks, what's the hang up with landing zone maps? I think it's the biggest challenge for Noob right now. Are there any good maps out in the community? Asking for a friend. Space Coder.
Yes, there are good maps made by the community. Go look on the community hub. There's a bunch of people who did maps, even for outposts. There was an org at some point. They mapped moons and outposts. But what's the holdup with maps?
Or what's the hang-ups? Like, why are people against maps, like maps for landing zones?
I have no idea. Like, I know that there's some technological barriers that CAG need to overcome before they're able to do anything about the star map and adding maps. But we have seen that they have a working demo for Squadron 42. So I think eventually that's going to get ported over into the PU. Question is how difficult that is, because I have a feeling that they, rather than having them generated, the maps, they have to make them manually, which is not very ideal. So technological challenges, that's why we don't have new maps. That's why we don't have a new star map. A new star map is blocked by, I think, server meshing. So yes, it just kind of piles on. But I don't know why people don't want them. I think having a proper map for things, at least for landing zones, having a proper map for your landing zone that tells you, oh, here is the tram stop, here is a shop, just basic things. You go to, a good example is like Minimap or the world map in Elder Scrolls Online. It doesn't tell you exactly what's going on, but it tells you enough, like, okay, here is a shop, here is a person of interest, and it kind of helps you navigate the world as you go along with many other things, because ESO is kind of the staple of MMOs, let's say.
Yeah.
Elwax
clarified that he was asking about, they were asking about landing zones, with CIG specifically, why aren't they doing it? But I think we already answered that question, which is like, it's just the technology isn't quite there yet for a lot of things. Digi, what do you think?
I was going to say the same thing. I think is what I don't know what that technology limitation is. I don't know if it is truly server meshing. If it is, I haven't heard that. But if it is, then yeah, it's going to be a while. But I would like to imagine that, because if correct me if I'm wrong, I thought they were supposed to be working on the star map this year. Like
they are. They've been working on it.
Yeah, and so
they're
possibly
working. I believe they said they have some blocker on it at some point. I'm not sure if it was during SC Live at some point or if it was during CitizenCon. I know that during CitizenCon they demoed a new location map, but they said that it's just a prototype.
Yeah.
So I think there's some problem with bringing that over. I think what they're struggling with is somehow generating this automatically
Oh, I
rather than
see.
having to make it, because having
Yeah,
to make it for every
dynamic.
location would be
Gotcha.
problematic. So I think that's
Gotcha.
what's happening. And to have a dynamic map, you need to be pulling information from the server, from the actual instance. And for that, you need the services that are managing server meshing and shards, for which you need the server meshing underlying tech, and just that chain of requirements. It just keeps getting longer. So yes, they're working on it. We will see it eventually. Probably not very soon. Yada yada yada.
I know they're building it for Squadron First, and they've been working on like the last months. They talked about how they added grids and grid coordinates for each map, so you actually can tell where you are on a map rather than just know like, oh, I'm here. It's like I have a grid, 7A, whatever here. So, I don't know, but I think what I was going to say was what Space Coder said, which is the whole like they're trying to make it dynamic. I know that they want to make it so that it auto generates. My only kind of pause is where it auto generates at like an outpost or in the middle of nowhere. It's like I don't know where I am. Why does my map suddenly know where I am? And all of the layouts and topography and all that kind of stuff. I'd like to have some mystery still there where you can still have that, but you could like ping out or make some sensors or something.
Yeah, I feel like there's that missing gameplay, because when you're at a moon and you have a comm array, then there's a reasonable chance that that moon has been mapped. So you open your map there. You should have a map, or you should have an idea. If you don't have a map, you should have an idea what your coordinates are for that planet. But if you are at a brand new world, planet, whatever, there is no comm array. There is no way for you to download your coordinates. You only have, I guess you have, north-south directions where you are. You might be able to have coordinates because I'm assuming you scanned the planet before you landed, and you just kind of end up with this long chain of missing gameplay. And that's another problem.
All right. Next question comes from QPan, who asks the classic question, how is everyone today? Digi, how are you doing today?
Oh, that's a great question. I'm doing pretty good. Feeling pretty good. I finally had a scare early this week. My computer died and I had to quickly get it built back up. But outside of that, it's been a wonderful week.
Was it like one thing died and you had to like find the replace it?
Yes.
I hate that.
Well, one thing died, but it also opened up an opportunity because so here's the thing. It was my hard drive, the OS drive that died. So I had to get a new hard drive, but I said, I have an old CPU, so now would be a great time to upgrade that. So I did that too. So
I've had that
have a better computer than I did before. So I'm happy.
If you're digging around in there, might as well.
Yeah, might as well,
How are you doing, Space Coder?
I'm doing great. Like I said before, I bought an apartment. It's going to be months before I can move in because the current owners have to move out and there's a shit ton of paperwork. And I'm going to be meeting a lot of lawyers, and my anxiety is through the atmosphere right now. Yeah, I did. I didn't think adulting is this anxiety inducing.
Yeah.
I thought I'm an adult, but I am not. I was not ready for this.
I purchased my first home a couple of years ago, and it is an excruciating experience. It is.
Yes.
It is painful, and it takes forever. And the worst part is not knowing. It's the well, technically we have it, but anything can still happen. You're just sitting there going.
That's it. Yep. Yeah, because the problem is like the current owners, they have a mortgage on the apartment.
Mm-hmm.
So they are building a house, but they ran out of money to build a house. That's why they're selling the apartment. So now they have to move the mortgage off the apartment onto the house, which takes a month. And then it takes another month to clear the record. And then it takes another month to write the apartment into my name. So that's 3 months in total. So it's going to be sometime in May, June, depending on how bureaucracy goes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it's just, I want to scream.
Yeah. You just want to get over it. But
and then there's the tremendous amount of crippling debt involved in this.
I owe 30 years of my life to the bank now.
Yes, it's amazing. For a brief second, you're very rich.
Yes,
and then you realize what that came with, and
exactly.
And then you're wondering, like, wouldn't it be easier to just just stop existing. Like, you know what, maybe I should just give up and go herd sheep in the Falklands or something. No one's gonna find me there.
I'm doing okay, Q-Pan. I'm doing okay. My brother-in-law is visiting. Went back to his home to visit family. So this is the first weekend I've had, because he's been staying with us for the last couple of months while he's getting on his feet because he's moving down to Texas. And it's been the first time I've had the house to myself, period. I mean, just me and my wife. So it's like, it's calm. I feel good. It feels nice to have that space again. So, all right.
I like the words of encouragement. In the chat
I was just looking at it.
Mortgages and stuff.
Yeah.
Thank you guys. I needed that.
You will feel better once you realize I own this. This is all mine.
Right.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure like the first month at the apartment, because I'm gonna live there alone probably, and it's a 3-bedroom. It's a huge apartment. I'm gonna be scared out of my mind at every noise. I'm gonna sleep with a gun under my pillow because I'm gonna be terrified.
Oh, boy.
And then it's gonna be okay. Like I'm gonna wake up one morning and it's gonna be okay.
What's beautiful is when you see the value go up.
Yeah.
And your mortgage value goes down. You know.
Yeah. That's the
See what
crazy
that
part.
you got. Yeah.
When you look a year later and you're like, no, there's no way it's worth that much now. There's no way that can happen. What
Exactly.
I didn't do anything. Why is it now suddenly more valuable? It's
That
not
part.
changed at all.
It's insane. Actually, here in Czech Republic, they have a problem right now where Czech Republic has their own currency, the Czech koruna.
Mhm.
Compared to every other country around it, which has euro, besides Poland.
Yeah.
So in Czech Republic, the inflation currently is like 18-ish%.
Mhm.
And the interest rates on mortgages are like between 5 and 10%, depending on how lucky you get. Everywhere outside, it's just like 3% max.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So no one here can afford to buy anything right now.
Oh, I see.
My advantage is that I'm from Slovakia, which is 2 hours drive over the border, where I can borrow money for much cheaper.
Yeah.
And that's how I pulled this off with 30 years of selling my soul to the bank. But that's fine. That's okay.
The advantage is you can always sell it again, and when you like, now it's yours.
Exactly.
You're not just
Like
paying somebody
my
else's.
plan is, in 10 years when I get bored or just go insane with city life, I'm just gonna sell an apartment and buy a vineyard somewhere in the country and just live there with a bunch of cats and be happy.
You don't want to know what I paid my interest for my mortgage. It's disgustingly small. It's 1.7%.
Oh my goodness.
I don't know how much interest my parents had for their house.
No.
0.3%.
Wow.
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 Yeah, that house, they bought a rundown house. They completely rebuilt it. They added the floor. It cost a shit ton of money back then, but that house is worth so much money right now.
Yeah.
Because the neighborhood went up in value, and just fuck's sakes. This makes me depressed. Like, if you are my age, I'm 25 right now. For those of you in the chat, if you wanted to buy a property at a good price, you should have started saving when you were born.
Yeah. That's kind of how it is. It's kind of how it is.
Right away, you left the hospital as a baby. You should have been investing in real estate right away.
Right away.
First money, your grandma gave you, $1 when you were 5 years old. Right away, real estate. Just go to the bank and put it in a real estate fund.
All right. Next question comes from Fishy, who asks, when do you think CIG will snap and add another light fighter, and what will it be like?
I remember everyone. I'm sorry. I sort of preempted that. Thank you. I remember everyone was asking for a RSI fighter. We never got that. We never got that.
We have Scorpius. The Scorpius.
Yeah. But not light though. Like, that's light. A heavy fighter, right? No, that's heavy. Yeah. So that's a good question, and I am in that boat of I would like to see an RSI because I'm an RSI fan. So one of the manufacturers that I love so much, but I would love to see an RSI light fighter enter the fray. Personally,
what do you think?
I think RSI would. I think RSI is a good place to go with the light fighter because they're. I don't know if you have noticed, but they're trying to refine the RSI design language
Yeah.
for the eventual rework of the constellation.
Mhm.
So I think it might be next, even though we just had the Scorpius. But as to answer the question of when there's going to be a next light fighter, when's Invictus?
June, May, I think, or
Yep.
May. Yeah.
That sounds
Yeah.
about right.
Because at this point, I feel like we have a new unannounced ship coming out pretty much every patch cycle. So
There are
Yeah.
5 unannounced ships that are
5.
in like gray box or later. It's nuts how
Yeah.
many things they have.
so
Yeah.
we're probably getting a light fighter or something this year. I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
I hope so.
I'm gonna say the meme answer and say Argo. The Argo light fighter. They're just gonna
There you
strap
go.
guns to the MPUV and just be like, call it a day.
There you go.
The multi-purpose violence vehicle. No, the MPVV.
Put a door gun in the
Now
back.
I hope they do that, Paul. Now I hope they do.
That's their April Fool's joke. They just put a bomb on the back of an MPUV and strap some guns to the side.
Take a Argo cargo, put a bomb in there, and your release mechanism is going to be a guy just kicking it out the
Just
back.
kicking out the back.
That'd be
all right.
awesome.
Next question comes from a boy named Doll who asks, when do you think towing will be in game?
Oh, that's coming soon. Oh, I'm sorry. I jumped ahead.
Go ahead,
Sorry.
Digi. Go for it. You jumped in.
Yeah, that's coming. You said towing. Yeah, the MP. What is it called?
SRV.
SRV. Yeah, that's coming. I think that's coming 319.
I wouldn't doubt it. Yeah. The only thing we'd be worried about is that CAG is using the 318 code base for 319.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
So I don't know if the code base can handle the 319 or the addition of towing. I don't think it.
Good point.
I don't know if there's anything that would fundamentally block it. It's not like a completely different way because we have towing. We have tractor beams today.
Tractor beams. Yeah. Mhm.
So I don't know if it would be bad. I don't know if it requires some fundamental change in the code that would need to be a new branch, but that would be my only holdup. But almost certainly they're planning on at least 319. It would be my understanding. Space Coder, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I'm pretty sure the SRV is in production, or at least the ship tracker beams are in production. Yeah. So they're definitely working on it. I think it's coming soon. Now, especially now that there's salvage and soft death is the big one where I think towing might actually be a desired thing, especially if they bring it in with the ability to, you can tow your soft death ship to a spaceport and they will repair it for you.
Mm-hmm.
So I think 319, 320 is reasonable. I agree that I don't think there is any technological blocker in there. I don't think there's anything in 318 that would screw with it potentially, unless for some reason they're using the 317 code base, because I know that they did some very weird stuff with branching 317.5. So that's going to be a whole mess trying to pull it all back together now. But yeah, I think it's coming pretty soon, actually.
Yeah,
like this year probably.
Oh yeah, yeah. If it's not 319, then before the end of the year, just because.
Yeah. However, the more important question is, if we're gonna get ship tractor beams, are all the ships who are supposed to have tractor beams gonna get their tractor beams?
That's the question.
That's a good question.
Yeah,
because according to the official documentation, this Scotty Black has a tractor beam in the back.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Yeah, you actually can see it on the if you go to the two little sponsons in the front, it says warning tractor beam assembly on the front.
Yeah.
So yeah, who knows? All right, here we go. Solo Fox asks, as software developers, how far do you think server meshing is after the meshing video on Thursday? Space Coder, I know you saw that and you wanted to jump on it. So,
fuck, that's a loaded question. Number one, like there is a caveat on this that they have so much content from just that week of meetings that they are going to be releasing it over a couple episodes.
That's why it's part one.
Yeah, so that's a big caveat that a lot of people seem to overlook. I think they have some form of server meshing working internally. I think there is a branch in there somewhere that they're working on, and they have at least static server meshing going on, or they have the tech that's required for it, the authority handover and that kind of stuff. They have it working because they have been talking about it in the very detailed terms. They spoke about it at this CitizenCon, and they spoke about it at the
Mhm.
CitizenCon before that.
Yeah.
And now they're talking about it, and I think CAG framed it a little bit not correctly with the ISC episode, where they made it look like they just started talking about it, but this, in fact, they're not just starting to plan, they're meeting to align the different teams, because what a lot of people don't realize is that all the people in that room, they represent different aspects of
Mhm.
of the development. There's multiple teams happening, and they have that whole strike force or whatever they're calling it.
They're different
So I
pieces of
think
the
they're
Voltron that is
yeah
the strike team. Okay.
yeah. So I think they're far along. I think they have some internal version of it working. I don't think it's stable enough to get released. 3.18 was a big part of it with persistent entity streaming. I think the next thing is going to be the authority handover or some kind of authority tracking. Whether we're going to see it this year, I don't think so. I think it might need more time, but I think they're further along that they're letting us know for
Yeah.
reasons only known to CAG.
Digital, what
That's
about
it.
you? How do you think?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think it's further along than they're letting on, and I think that's on purpose, and I think that's a good thing as well, because you got to sort of manage the expectation a bit. Because one thing that resonated with me from that ISC was because I like to listen to what they say. I know there's a lot of opinions on that, but when you listen to some of the terminology that they're using and some of the way that they explain what they're doing, first of all, server meshing is a very complicated thing. I try to explain it to people this way. When it comes to talking about things like server meshing or these different technologies, you could say that other companies have done things like this or have done this before. But in game development and in technology in general, it's a sandbox, and you can have your own take on a specific, technology, if you will, and the way that you're utilizing or building it for what you're trying to create. And so ultimately, I do agree that they have some form of it functioning internally, and they're doing tests and what have you. But now the goal is to scale that out, right? To decouple the replication layer from uh, the simulation. I think that's the terminology that they were using. I know Chris said it in his most recent letter. So you have like they're being careful, which is good because there is some unknown that's coming up. Like as they develop this, there's gonna be setbacks. Maybe they'll realize that they can, that they're further along, and maybe some of the setbacks that they expect don't happen. But then you can have surprises because technology is it. That's technology in a nutshell. I know. Uh, uh, Jared always says the only constant in game development is change. That goes into technology as well. Whatever you're building, especially when you're building it at scale or you're being very ambitious, doing or treading a path that's not commonly treaded, if you will, or walked, you're gonna have the trial and error, the ebb and flow of trial and error and figuring it out. Like I forgot the gentleman's name, but he was saying things like we're capable of, whatever we run into, whatever challenges we run into, we're capable of figuring it out. But we have to see what those things are going to be. So, they may have a working, version of it internally, but they have to now get it to a place where it's ready for all of us, the rest of us, the rest of the players. So so to the question, I don't think we're going to see it this year, and I consider myself an optimistic type person when it comes to these sort of. But I don't think we're going to see it this year. I think 2024 is a reasonable expectation. But yeah, I'm going to just go ahead and temper my expectation, and I hope it comes into 2024, but I don't expect it this year.
And I think one thing to clarify on that, by internal demo, I don't mean that they have a version of the game where they have multiple servers running it and they're flying around. It's probably like 4 object containers or 2 object containers with the little cube that just moves between them.
Yeah.
And it crashes every 5 minutes. And it just produces a bunch of logs on which server has authority over which container and which server has knowledge of the cube. And that's it. And they're trying to develop that into a larger thing. Also, it seems like they might have, at least from the language they used in that video, it seemed like they realized that they're trying to tackle a very large item, and they've been trying to do it for the past year or so. and now they're trying to split it up, decouple different things so they can look at them separately. And that's the correct approach from software development standpoint. And to the non-believers who are watching this video, CIG have incredible talent working for them. They not only have people who have been with Star Citizen from the very early days working on this, they also have some of the best people who left other companies working on this, because Star Citizen is a massive project. If you're a game developer who is looking for like the next ambitious thing, you're going to apply to CIG. That's I would know. I have applied to CIG and I'm not even a game developer. So
as a non-software developer experience, it's also important to remember that nobody knows anything other than CIG. The best anyone can tell you is what they look at and from their own experience, which can give you some good context, but neither Digi nor the Space Coder can crack open what CIG is doing and look at the code. They can't see what's actually happening. So because of that, we don't know. It's just, and anyone who tells you that they 100% know is probably trying to sell you something.
Yeah.
We can just give you the best options.
That's if I ever make it to CIG, every time I come on Captain's table after that, they will have a guy standing behind me with a gun in his hand.
It'll just be Jake. It'll be Jake. It'll just be Jake with an axe. It'll just you'll peek around the corner every so often and be like, "Shut up, don't say anything."
It's like no.
Yeah, I put the caveat to my video just for that reason, though, because there's no way. You're right, Paul. There's no way to know, even if you are, in that field, because again, it's CIG's interpretation of these different technologies, if you will. So is their iteration, is their approach to it, and so it's always going to be something that no one on the outside can really explain except for someone inside of CIG.
Yeah, and that's another thing that often people forget. It's like you all pointed out. It's like. Yeah, server meshing's been around for decades now. The technology and how to do it has been around, but no game that uses server meshing or no software that uses server meshing technology is built the same way. They all have different purposes and different ways that they work. So something like, say, ESO isn't going to be the same solutions that Star Citizen is going to come up with, because they have different approaches and different requirements for what they do.
100%.
So.
There's no out of the box solution. There's not something you pull in there and it's going to work.
At least not for Star Citizen.
Not for Star Citizen.
Gin and Tonic asks the Space Coder, "What size hat do you wear?"
I don't wear hats.
So you don't know?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna have to. I don't have a whole lot of hair left up there. I'm gonna get myself a beanie or something.
That's my secret. I don't have any hair up here.
Don't go into software development. You lose your hair.
That's.
Yeah, I haven't given up yet. Like eventually, I will give up and just go bald, like shave it all off. But I have not given up yet.
Yeah,
and I refuse.
I've given up, man. I'm sorry to tell you.
All right. Hey, it's Nick asks, is there anything you feel CIG is misprioritizing? What would you like to see more prioritized? Digi, we'll start with you on that.
Ooh, oh man.
After we just talked about how we don't have no idea what CIG is doing, Yeah.
Exactly. I am a fan of exploration, but I think server meshing would be, well, I say that carefully because now that they got PES in, I personally believe that there's an opportunity there to get exploration into the game. I would love to see exploration this year. I don't know that we will get that, but I think with PES, like it opens up a door to at least do maybe a tier 0 of one of the forms of exploration. But I wouldn't go as far to say that they're misprioritizing anything like that. And because of what you just said, I don't have an opinion there personally, as far as them misprioritizing anything. Because again, they know what needs to be done. And I like to believe they got the people in place to organize that in an efficient way. Because you have fans that like we all have an opinion of what we want to see in the game, and they have to take all that information and determine what makes the most sense. So to me, I have to give them that benefit of the doubt to assume that they're doing the best they can in that area.
Okay. The Space Coder, what do you think?
So we can't really judge what they prioritize or if they prioritize well or not well, because we don't know what they're prioritizing until the last minute with the new roadmap. Until it's committed, we just don't know.
Until it's already like ready to go or or out the door.
Like unless they're like 90% sure it's gonna get in, they're not gonna put it in there. So we have no idea what they're working on. Like, okay, you can look at the progress tracker. As much as they claim that the progress tracker is linked to their internal Jira, I think they're lying.
It's not a direct feed. We know Jake actually goes through and filters it out and changes some stuff up.
So it's heavily redacted.
Yeah.
And like heavily edited to convey a certain message. So it's not an accurate tool to measure this by. But on the other hand, I believe that CAG are aware of kind of the order of how they need to do things and kind of the long-term priority. And I think they're doing the best they can do with the people they have and the resources they have and the stuff that needs to get done. Obviously, with a game of this size and with this ambition, everything is linked. I do not want to see the dependencies between the different items. It's probably a huge nightmare and trying to figure out an optimal plan.
Exactly.
I think John Crew stays up late at night just thinking about the Endeavor. So and I can't imagine what the people are who are like, you're in charge of medical. Like, okay, thanks. I have no idea how I'm going to tackle this. You know,
right?
Yeah, but that's how it works. It's like you get a ticket, and it's like, do this. Here is a link to documentation.
Make game.
Do tickets. Do stuff, and then you have your manager pinging you. Like, perfect example from my job. Here is a 5 story point ticket, which, in layman's terms, it's supposed to take you 5 days to do, give or take. Mm-hmm. And then you get it, you start working on it, and then every 4 hours you have your manager be like, hey, have you checked this in yet? Have you checked this in yet? Is this done yet? How are you progressing on it? And then they're like, well, here's a problem. We need you to take a look at this right now, because there's a critical issue that needs your attention. I'm like, but there's 500 developers in here. Do you need me? I have this huge thing. So I think CIG are doing the best they can do with what they have, as far as we know.
Yeah. And I will take this moment to say, CIG's hiring. So if you're looking for jobs and you really think you can do it, go for it. CIG's hiring all over
if you're ready for the insanity, go for it.
Yeah. And who else is, or what is it, the other one? Not CIG, but the Montreal team. Turbulent. They're also hiring.
Oh, yeah. So,
they're even opening a new office in Lyon, France. So it's like, you know.
Mm-hmm. But one thing that I want to add on to this, I think a lot of people think, and I'm actually going to I'm publishing a video on this on Monday. So if you're watching this on Monday on YouTube, go watch my video on it.
Yeah. I'll have a link up there.
But the gist of it is, I think a lot of people think CAG are misprioritizing things because of the randomness of things that make it into the patches. For example, the new Scorpius is a very good example, or the new Pisces.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, why do we have this? Like, why aren't you guys working on something else? So here's the thing with how priorities work and how trying to chain that together is, you will have people, designers, developers, producers who have a couple hours here and there where they have nothing to do.
Yeah.
So they will look at their backlog and be like, hey, here is this small item. Like, oh, make model for thing. Okay, that's going to take me 4 hours. Let's do it. And they do it and they check it in. Mm-hmm. And that eventually this kind of cascades into, oh, here, I can assemble a new variant of a ship. Great. It's checked in, it's tested, good. Slap it into 318. Done. Yeah. And this incremental small effort leads to big things eventually. And that's where you get the randomness, especially with new ship variants. Obviously, there is an element of, cash grabs, but go watch the video.
Anyway, moist eyeballs. Yes. Sheet deformation tech, coffee.
Yeah,
those are all examples of what you're talking about. It's like they had some dude, like with coffee. They had a guy who was working on a new AI tech designer, and they were like, "Here's the tools, design something for us," And so he's like, "I'll make a coffee vendor," and so he made a coffee vendor using the tools. Like, this is good. Let's pop it in because it's good content. Just put the content in there.
My idea on how the Cedar Pisces came to be is they hired a new designer and they were like, "Hey, here's the models for Anvil. Play around a little bit." And these guys like, "Oh, here's a med bay. Oh, this fits in there. Oh, you know what? Let's put this together, slap some textures on it. Oh, that actually looks pretty good. Hey, let me show this to my manager." And the manager's like, "Oh, that's pretty nice. Okay, $50 a piece. Let's slap it in there.
Yeah.
Good job."
Yeah.
Good job, underpaid intern.
And there is the problem is that we don't know how much of it is just dude just new hire got thrown in and said boom, unless they tell us, and how much of it is what was marketing thinking? Let's how much money can we make? You know, it's hard to tell.
Obviously, I think there's an element of revenue optimization because CAG is still a company and we're living in a capitalist world and they're still trying to make a shit ton of money while developing this massive game. So there is this element of it, and I think they just have a backlog of random ships and variants that they just throw out there whenever they can.
Yeah, it's easy. It's easy to think the worst, but like I think you guys nailed it. It's like it could have been as simple as this was a low-hanging fruit, so now you got something extra that you weren't expecting because we could, and it's not a gimmick or a ploy, right? It's just simply that, and
this is how it works.
Yeah, you know,
like, you look at your backlog and you see a thing is like, oh, okay, it's low priority, low severity, but it's gonna take me 5 minutes to do this. So
exactly,
might as well do it.
Might as well do it. It could be that simple.
Next question comes from Fishy, who asks, do you think CIG will ever sell a starter pack where you select a starter ship that comes from it with different bonuses depending on the ship, like an Aurora plus UEC, a Mustang plus pistols, a 100 high with nice clothes? Do you think we'll see some sort of additions to that? Digi, I'll start with you on that one.
I would hope so. I think that's a cool idea. Whether they would do it, I don't know, because this system that we have has been the same for quite a long time. I would personally like to see more options though in that regard, because I think, you know, you have so many new players coming into the game and you have so many ships now. So it's like, I see an opportunity there. I think it's a good question. Will we get it? I don't know, but I will just say that I'm on board with you. I would like to see something like that.
Space Coder, what do you think?
It's a good idea. I like it because then you can kind of tailor, because when you have games releasing these days, you have multiple options for the game and they come with different in-game stuff.
Right.
So it's an interesting option. And interestingly enough, remember the Origin 300i customizer?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
They could use that for this.
Yeah.
Very easily could be converted into it with probably some effort on the front end, but could very much be used this way. So I think very interesting idea. Could be worth the development time at some point. Though I think the CIG want to sort of decouple from the starter pack sales model at some point in the future. So, you know, there might be some shuffling going on there, but interesting idea.
Yeah, I was going to say something. They've done stuff similar to that before, but it was more like expansion packs. Like you got a special pistol when you got the Weekend Warrior pack, which came with you got like a special suit with like the M50 or the 350R. Yeah,
I remember that one.
The pirate skin with the pirate pack and stuff. So there used to do stuff like that. And I was going to say the 300 is the perfect example of doing that, because when you reach a point, like CIG is going to reach a point where this game is going to be $60. The problem is that the Aurora is not worth $60. So if you're at $60, it's like, I'm just going to get the 100i or the Cutter. They're better. They're just better ships. But if you had an option, it's like, okay, well, you could take the worse Aurora for $60, but then you can also get this amount of stuff that you can customize for free with the pack. So it gives you an advantage being like, hey, you know, I want to be a bounty hunter, so I'll take this taser and these armor sets, and I can get that with an Aurora, whereas I can only get the 100 or the 100 with the price. I'll take that downgrade for that extra cool stuff. And it gives more of an interesting element to the purchase beyond just ship. So
right.
Yeah. All right. Next question comes from Blazrad, who asks, if they don't do a new player experience now, how else would you like them to see them handling the huge influx of players that we're seeing currently? The Space Coder, what do you think?
Signs. Put signs in landing zones.
Signs.
And force, like, shove the guide system down people's throats.
Yeah.
Like, you put it there for a reason. People are using it for a reason. You're rewarding people for using it for a reason. More throat shoving now, please.
Digi, what do you think?
Yeah, I think they can utilize the two things. They can use the home, what do you call it? The where you choose
Your
Arena
spawn point?
Commander.
Oh, yeah, Arena Commander. Oh, yeah.
The main menu. I think they can utilize that more. Like, and I'm gonna say something I said earlier. Like, push people to the community too. Like, it from within the game. Like, it just the main screen though, not within the. Now, once you log into the persistent universe, not then, but in the main menu. Like, you first time playing, check out our community hub. For guides or for this or that. Utilize that or use the game client. To sort of, because they sort of use it now for the comm links, right? But like maybe flesh it out a bit more, like sort of just that way they don't have to do the heavy lifting when they have us to do it. Again, I'm not self-plugging here because I'm saying the whole community, but I think that's an opportunity for them because again, like you already have these new players coming in, the free flies, and what are they doing? They'll jump in and then they'll link up with people who in groups and they'll learn how to play the game that way or just trial and error. But if you add just the little things. Sometimes it's the little things that make the biggest impact. And I think if you utilize the game client and utilize the homepage and sort of give information there, like I think that's a missed opportunity right now. Because on the home screen, you just have the 3 buttons and, if you want to group up with people. But how about some information like you see on MMO clients, right? You pop up any MMO client, you'll see
little side scroll or something.
Exactly. Information like sort of funneling people to resources or information that might be useful before even jumping into the game. I think that might be worthwhile, personally.
My biggest thing is take the guide system off of Spectrum and throw it into the game.
Yes.
Make it an in-game aspect. Give it a mission system where someone can accept to be a guide. They accept the mission. Someone who's looking for guides, you have some sort of say, hey, new to the game, check out the guide system. Check it out in your Mobiglass. And you have a little marker inside your Mobiglass. It's just a guide. You click it, it immediately accepts a mission for a guide, and then that person will go, hey, cool, you're my newbie, I'm going to go find you. And then that way you have an internal system that's in the game that encourages people to do it, because then they get, UEC or other things for doing this sort of thing. It's kind of like a mentor system. And, it's good to go. Now, of course, you're going to get trolls and other things like that, but you're going to do that with Spectrum anyways. So it's going to happen no matter what you do.
Right. None of my recommendations, by the way, include Spectrum. I'm speaking more about the community hub.
Which has all these resources and stuff like that. So
Mm-hmm.
And they do have the new community hub where you can specifically filter out guides. So
exactly. Yeah.
I mean, half the time you can't log into it, but that's okay. You would think they would have fixed that by now, since they have a whole team.
I think they addressed that. It could have been a dev post, but I think that's been at least they've addressed it. I don't know if they fixed it, but I know they verbally addressed it.
They acknowledged that they haven't
acknowledged it. Yeah, that's what I meant to say. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
but it's a general problem with like their SSO across the page, Spectrum, and the new community hub and issue council. So it's more complicated than that.
Yeah. And on top of that, you've got Spectrum where you can't even see some posts unless you've signed into the website entirely. So
that's right. Yeah. True.
All right. Next question comes from Fishy, who asks, what shenanigans will you be up to with the Argo SRV? Digi, what do you think you're going to do with the SRV, with that tow truck?
Oh, man. I'm a lawful player. I'll be honest with you. But I don't get me wrong. Like, whenever I get a phantom crime stat, then I'll kind of lean into it sometimes. But with the SRV, I don't know. Because I don't think you can pull anyone who has their shields up. No. So I don't know how much trolling you can do, but I'm not one of your good examples of trolling anyway. So I probably wouldn't get into any shenanigans. But I'll definitely watch the shenanigans. That's for sure.
I think what I'll try to do is get a soft death ship, like an NPC soft death ship, and then roll with other people, and do like the Arlington missions, and just see if I can like flail, like turn another ship into a flail and just like spin the ship and try to get to the Idris and just slam a derelict ship into the Idris. Use it like a wonky anime psychic weapon, I guess you could say, but or like a catapult, like spin it and throw it and see if I can hit something. Space Coder, what do you think?
Number one, try to play around with asteroids.
Yes.
Possibly, try to orbital strike an outpost with an asteroid. Number two, sling mount tanks.
Yes.
Just gonna fly them around.
There you go.
I'm pretty sure it's not gonna work. But I'm very curious to try that, because the sling mounting, like the number one thing that's missing for me sometimes, especially when I need to move around vehicles, is sling mounting. Like, I'm pretty sure a Valkyrie should weight, in terms of weight, be able to carry a ballista or something. It just doesn't fit inside of it. Give me some steel cable and just hang it underneath, and it should work.
Well,
it even has mounting points on the bottom. So
there's rope, which is supposedly in the engine, that I keep looking at and going, I have no idea what you do.
Oh, yes, that's right.
All right. Next question comes from, if I can put this right, from Stop and Sniffer, who asks, do you think CIG will release the Scorpius Antares by Stella Fortuna in mid-March, even if 318 is still in PTU? No. I think they're going to release it when 318 goes live. There's probably
they
dependencies.
specifically said on Twitter that it's for 318, so
yeah. And I think 318 is going to drop soon.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it'll happen before Stella Fortuna. I think. Here's the thing, and this may be just my cynical nature coming through a little bit, which is, I think come March, March 3rd, which is 2 weeks from now, and if the game is somewhat working, the CIG is just going to be like, let it go.
Fuck it.
Because I know CIG
will do it live.
I know CIG is also like, we're just done with this patch. Just let it be over with. Please.
They dropped the hotfix today, so they've been busy on the weekend. That's a sign right there to me too.
Yeah,
they're ramping up.
They're
trying to kick this thing out the door. Yeah.
When you think about it, hanging on 318 this long, it's blocking other things down the stream.
Yeah.
So they have to get it out to get 319 out, and it's just I would not want to be in that daily meeting.
What's wrong? Don't tell me. Say it's good. Say it's good. Don't you tell. Don't you do that. QA, no. Just lock QA out. We don't need them in this meeting right now.
Don't give me that look. You know what? Don't even unmute yourself.
All right. Next question comes from Velocity Rapper, who asks, now that you started talking about real estate, what would your dream homestead be like? Digi, I'll start with you on this one.
Great question. I forgot the system. Is the system? I've seen it in the lore post. This is so perfect since we're on the AstroPub's channel. Mm-hmm. I forgot the location though. There's supposed to be this big tourist location or system. Oh man! But I just want a homestead. Say it again.
Green. It's in the Ellis system. It's the one where it's like this big tourist system. It's where they have the Murray Cup in.
Yes, that one. Yeah. Yes. That's the one. I sort of want to. I forgot which planet it was in that system, but I want to build a homestead out there. Perfect. Personally, that's the location I would like to. Say it again.
There's a lot. That system has like 12 or 13 planets in it, so it's like 4 of them.
I forgot which one. Right,
it might be
green.
green.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I forgot which one it was, but it was one in particular. I got to go back and read it to be more specific. But that's the system that I want to have my first one in, probably if I can swing it.
What do you think, Space Cutter? Your ideal?
I don't have a location in mind. I just know that just little house, a little hab, a little farm, a landing pad, somewhere to park my Cyclone and just go out there to chill every once in a while, and pick some carrots or something. That's where I want to live in real life. I just want to go away into the mountains and be there, and everybody leave me alone. But I can't do that. So I will do it in Star Citizen.
Yeah. I forgot to answer that part, Paul. Yeah, as far as what I want to have, pretty much just it's funny because they just did the ISC showing the interiors, and now that I know I already said the one system, but I'm very excited about those some of the images that they
Penthouses.
showed for them. Yeah. The ones that you can, I think those are going to be rentable, like the ones in the major landing zones. But I personally do want my own homestead outside of the cities. But I'm kind of excited about just having a place. Some of my favorite city locations are major landing zone locations. But I do want to, because I'm sort of going back to, I forgot the doc. It was like the career of the occupation doc that's been published for years. And they were talking about like even having your own factories and stuff like that. I don't know how much of that they kept or plan to keep doing or just still do. But as part of an org, of course, I'm hoping to have full, complexes at some point. You know what I mean? I think that's going to be pretty cool.
Personally, I'd probably want a homestead on Tohill 3, because it's a planet that's entirely a water world, and it has no land masses, but it has floating dead and living flowers that have made these giant beds, like giant lily pads, as it were, that people have been built cities on. So there's this beautiful, like, tropical location where there is no land; it's just flowers everywhere you go. So I'm like, that's paradise. Those things break apart all the time, but there we go. I'll try. Saw that. So
sounds like a good place to live if you have dry skin.
Yes.
There you go.
Next question comes from Shempasta. No, we already kind of answered that question about land claims, so complete that. From Jake of No Trades, who asks, if you could design your own ship with function, manufacturer, aesthetic, what would you make? Space Coder.
Wow. That's a very difficult question. So I like industrial ships. I like the Argo aesthetic, like the mole and the raft. They're very beautiful. I think something like that. Also, I like the Orion as it is, and I think I would build something probably like in the mining area, probably like a smaller Orion and by Argo. It would be like orange VTOLs, and it would have a refinery and some storage in it. So just something that you can, park somewhere and just use it as a refinery, something like that. I don't know. I'm pretty basic.
I'll say mine's pretty simple. I've always had this idea of so there's a vehicle called the Landing Dock Carrier or some LHD, I think landing something dock, that's used by naval and marine forces around the world, which is effectively it's a helicopter that's also kind of like a floating base. So it's less of it's like a aircraft carrier, but it's also used as like a floating base. It's sometimes known as a helicopter carrier. And I've always said, like, the thing that people always don't understand is the distance in Star Citizen, just how far apart things are. Stanton is tiny, is very, very tiny compared to even Pyro, which is 3 times the size, and Nyx, which is 4 times the size. So, and most systems are bigger than Stanton. So, having the ability to carry other people's ships and vehicles is very important. But the Liberator is good, but it's too short range. We need something that's bigger, that can carry ships and equipment and stuff for very long ranges, that's not dedicated just to combat. Something that is designed for living in and operating in as an organization or as a group, or being able to just ferry people to and from locations, just because it's a lot cheaper to have one ship operating within an entire squadron or whatever. So LHD, thank you.
Yeah, good concept for that would be a ship that's basically just a bunch of docking ports and big engines. And you like dock a bunch of ships on it, and the people on those ships kind of stay on there. They just kind of are, latched onto the bigger ship that launches them through space more effectively. I think something like that. I think there even is a concept for Squadron 42 for something like that.
Possibly. Digi, what do you think? What your if you could design one ship?
Yeah, so and I'm simple too, but so I'm a fan of the Carrack, but it's a military ship basically. I want and I know we have the Orion, not the Orion. What's the name of it?
Odyssey.
Odyssey. And that's more like industrial, right? I want the pure explorer ship, like not military centric, not industrial centric, just like pure exploration. If that makes sense. That's what I personally want. I want
something
that.
That has nothing to do with military. It's just
Nothing to do with
designed for
military.
just scientific exploration.
Exactly. Just get out there and explore. Not focused on combat, not focused on resource gathering and stuff like that, but just going to find stuff.
Yeah.
Purposed just for that. That's what I personally want.
All right. The next question, I'm going to have you answer this, Digi, then Space Coder. Jack of No Trades asks, how do you guys think the new studios will affect production? The new Manchester spot is supposed to house up to 1,000 staff, or have we already seen the repercussions?
I don't know that we've seen the repercussions already because I think how long ago has it been since everyone moved in?
Like August, November, somewhere last fall. So
right, I think we've yet to see the full benefits of what that affords. But I totally agree. It's funny because I work from home at my primary job, but I must say that I think it is easier when you're in the office with, the people that you need to collaborate with. It does make that process a lot easier. You still have the meetings, of course, but I think the meetings are less when you can just get up and go to the desk of the person you need to have a conversation with. And it does help with, ideas and, brainstorming and, just that cohesion. I think that does go a long way. Personally, in my own experience, of course. So I think we've yet to see the full benefits of that, but I think we'll start to see that very soon. Like especially now that they're working on server meshing, and I call this period of time crunch time because a lot of the things we've been hoping for, I think, is right on the horizon. So I think we're going to start to see the benefits of that very soon. Personally,
okay. Space Coder, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think there's especially because CIG are very against working from home. Like they want people to be coming into the offices. That's why they're moving into the new offices so they can have everybody in the same space. So it's easier to communicate and there's ideas flowing because game development is a little more creative than your regular software development. So it's nice to have everybody in the same space. Myself also, I work from home and I am never coming back to the office. Mostly because it's way too cold in there, okay? It's just way too cold in that office. But I think we're going to see a lot of benefits with new ideas coming out, and I think also ISC is going to look a little bit better because they're going to have all the people in there. I think it's going to be good. I think we're going to see a lot of benefits.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's you also got to remember that it's not just about efficiency, it's also about cohesiveness. Because one of the things, like, for instance, I know a lot of the people who work in the Manchester office do like Warhammer and tabletop games and all those sorts of things on top of just the normal video game experiences. And so they have an actual game room built in the Manchester studio that can hold several regulation tabletop wargaming tables, which can also be used for Dungeons and Dragons. And they have a place where you can play video games. So it's a place that they want to make it so that people can connect with one another over other things, which then can get people talking and experimenting beyond just. Yeah, and that makes a huge difference, having a place where you can actually relax with your colleagues before or during or after work, especially if you're working closely with them, even if it's just like sit down and play a game of cards or something like that, just staying away from the computer screen that you're staring at all day. So,
I do miss that because I work from home now, but I was like I've been here where I'm at now for about 8 years now. And for of course, before that thing that we won't mention happened, always in the office, always having situations just like that, like what you were just mentioning, Paul, or events and, gatherings even after work, right? But still at the office and stuff like that. And even like different like hackathons and stuff like that, it makes a difference because you're building relationship with people. That's very different than doing that over Teams or over Zoom or what have you. So it's a different experience. So I totally agree. I do miss
And
it.
until then, like the people around you, they're working around you. It's just a name on a screen. But then when you go in
Right.
there and you hang out with these guys, then you know something about these people, so it's easier to communicate a lot of things.
Exactly.
Yeah, and as I'll tap into my theater experience here. Video game development is a collaborative art. We often put people like Chris Roberts or other, why am I blanking on his name?
John Crew.
John Crew. Well, I'm talking about other video game developers, like other stars of the video game development scene, who you'd be like, oh wow, like this person is a really big name because they made this game. The first creators of Doom, the people who
Cliffy
made
B.
Cliffy B. These people who you look at, it's like, oh, they made this game, and often they're one person in a group of a dozen, several dozen, 100, 1,000. And in reality, they didn't touch. Like Chris Roberts, I'm sure, is working on the game, but I'm sure he's not touching all of the AI aspects or all of the balances to guns or the particle effects. I'm sure he reviews that stuff, but there's an entire team of people who do that. And when you're doing a collaborative art like that, you need to have that connection with the people you're working with, simply because you sometimes you need to be within taking a roll of newspaper and slapping someone in the back of the head distance. Right. And sometimes you need to be within it. You need to be able to just like have a cookie and be like, here, have a cookie. You did good. Enjoy it. Hideo Kojima and that kind of stuff. That's really the stuff. The sitting around and being like, well, what if we did this? And someone going, that wouldn't work because this. Like, no, let's try it. Let's do that. And you do it, and he goes, it works, or it didn't work. Whatever. Those sorts of free flow ideas is what often makes or breaks games. A lot of ideas that come from gaming and games were either spur of the moment changes or whims, and it wouldn't have happened if those people were on Zoom calls,
Right.
So, the last question, which is a weird one, but I think it's a good kind of discussion question, and I'll start with you on this one, the Space Coder.
Oh, wow.
Crucible Meatball asks, do you think CIG will change all kinds of stuff after Starfield is released?
No.
Why not?
Everybody says CIG is going to change all sorts of things when Elite Dangerous Odyssey releases. Odyssey released, nothing happened. Actually, the only thing that happened is that a bunch of Elite players came over to Star Citizen because they realized that Star Citizen does it better. So I think we might actually see the same thing where, a bunch of people are going to play Starfield and they're going to be like, well, it's just Skyrim in space. But here is this other space sim thing that's been in development for a very long time, and there's a lot of content about that, and it looks pretty shiny, and there's a free fly going on right now. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if like a month after Starfield releases and like the activity starts dropping and the salt starts growing on social media, CIG will be like, hey, we have a free fly for a week. Come check us out. And I think it's just gonna be Odyssey all over again. So I think nothing's going to change. We're just going to gain more backers.
Digi, what do you think?
I basically agree. I think Star Citizen is its own game. It's not looking at other games for inspiration. It's trying to be its own thing. And I think, and not only that, it's trying to be this groundbreaking thing. So I don't think Starfield matters in that part. I think, with at least the way I see it, the way the devs go about this, they have their own ideas of what they want to achieve. Chris Roberts has his own idea of what he wants to achieve, and that's the focus. You can take inspiration from other games, but you're not waiting for this game to drop to see what you can steal, because you have your own ambition, you have your own ideas, you have your own goals, and they're pretty much working on, like, CIG, their heads are down right now, and they're working on their games, so they're not sitting there twiddling their thumbs, waiting for these other big ticket games to drop to steal ideas or to borrow this or to say, oh, we need to add that into our game now. I don't see that being the case at all. And like Space Coder said, there's been games already that's come out that was supposed to happen with, and we see what happened there. So it's its own game, and it's a huge game. It's ambitious. It doesn't need to do that. That's my take on it.
Yeah, I like what Tennywell said, which is it's Star Citizen. Starfield is the game you play when you need a break from Star Citizen. Yeah, it's a great game for that. It's also important to remember.
I'm gonna play it.
Yeah, I'm gonna play it. I'm gonna cover it because I know it's a sci-fi game, and I'm a big proponent, and I know members of CIG, this big proponents of a rising tide floats all boats. There's no reason why people can't buy Starfield and Star Citizen.
Exactly. Yeah.
There's nothing stopping them from doing that. And the reality is that sci-fi space gaming is a small niche. This isn't Call of Duty. This isn't a strategy game. This is not a MOBA. There are so many other genres out there that are so much bigger and have so much more attention to them. So that when, you'll see the same creators, the same fans will all gravitate to those games. Like Everspace 2 is coming out soon. I can almost guarantee you we'll see some Star Citizen, some Elite Dangerous, some Kerbal Space Program. We'll see the people who are streaming and playing sci-fi games will be playing that game and streaming when it comes out because we were starved of content for a lot of these sorts of things. So the reality is that nothing's going to change with the Star Citizen. The Starfield is not trying to be Star Citizen. Star Citizen's not trying to be Starfield. Not even with Squadron 42, same thing. They're different things for different people. And some people will look at it and go, hey, I really wish I could fly down and explore all of the levels of the planet with my ship. Oh, Star Citizen does that. I'll try that out. And other people will be like, I like Skyrim and I like Fallout. I don't know, but Bethesda's doing a space thing. What's it? And maybe they go, oh, wow, I really like this space idea. Flying in space and combat. I wonder if there's other games that do that, and find Star Citizen. It's just.
I think it also comes back to what we said at the start of the first segment. Everybody watching on YouTube, go watch that if you haven't already. That playing other games, especially when you're already a Star Citizen backer, playing other games makes you miss Star Citizen. It's like, oh, well, I'm missing this. I'm used to this from Star Citizen. You know what? I want to go play Star Citizen now. and I think a lot of people, and social media algorithms, they work their magic. And I think we'll see, people watching Starfield content, and it's going to start recommending them Star Citizen.
Yeah,
and there's going to be a lot of overlap, people coming back and forth. So I think ultimately everybody's going to play everything, and we will see who sticks with what.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. I think that's it for the last question for the day. Thank you so much to Digital Master and the Space Coder for coming on and talking with us. Make sure you check out their own YouTube channels, their TikToks, their social medias, and so on and so forth. It's Digital Master Gaming on YouTube, right?
Yes. That's
it's the Space Coder. And make sure you also check out the Armory. It's very good if you want to know all about FPS armors and weapons and stuff like that. It's and I know the Space Coder has lost many sleepless nights trying to fix that. Is it?
I am actually doing a full redesign of it right now, and I hope to have it by now. But it's so fundamental, and I'm so good at procrastinating that I didn't get it done. But it will be done at some point.
At some point, yeah.
Soon.
So yeah, that's make sure you check that out. And if you enjoyed this, come join us live at twitch.tv/TheAstroPub or youtube.com/TheAstroPubLive, where you can watch your own Captain's Table and ask your own questions as well. And I don't always say this, but I always want to kind of put this out there. If you would like to be on the Captain's Table, all you got to do is reach out to me on Discord, through other social medias. I'm on Twitter. And say, hey, I'd like to come on. You don't necessarily have to be a content creator. I'd prefer you have content creation experience or something else like that, because it's always nice to kind of promote other people in the verse. But yeah, just reach out and see if you want to come on, and try to schedule a time for it. That's always important. But like I said, or before I go, I want to hear your thoughts if you're watching this after the fact in the comments below. If you're listening to this in the podcast, I'd like to hear your thoughts as well on any of the stuff we talked about. And make sure you remember to leave a rating, and subscribe for more content from like this. And like I always say, hope to see you someday in the black.